Now, is there anybody that's still kind of iffy on conjugating verbs? Okay. So this is going to help you out. We're going to talk about verb conjugations. I'm going to try to be clear and help you understand it. Now, when we conjugate a verb, what is it we're doing? What do we do when we conjugate a verb? We change it. So when we conjugate a verb, we change the verb to match something. What are we trying to match? Right. In this case, I'll call it the subject. We change the verb to match the subject. The subject is usually a noun. That's a verb we know is an action word. And someone or something has to perform that action. That's what the subject is. The subject is the item or person that is doing the verb. Okay? Now, when we have our verbs, because we conjugate verbs in English, but we don't do it like they do in Spanish. We kind of don't really think much about it because it's not as common. But in Spanish, it's a very important concept. Probably the single most important grammatical concept in the language is verb conjugations. If you can't conjugate a verb, you can't learn Spanish. And we're going to use a verb here, hablar. What does hablar mean? To talk. Now, all verbs have two parts to them. Okay, they have two parts. Anybody know what those two parts are?
First and second syllable.
Okay, there's first and second syllable. You have one of the parts is the ending of the verb. Cody, is that what you can say? Yeah. We have the ending. The ending is always the last two letters of the verb. Everything that's left is called what?
The stem.
The stem. So you have the stem and the ending. Okay. Now, the stem usually doesn't change, and I always like to use an example of a flower. You have roses that are many different colors. Okay, red, white, yellow, whatever. The end of the flower will change. Some will be red, some will be white, some will be yellow. But the stem, if you took all the petals off and you just had the stem left, it would look like the other roses. If you had a stem of a red rose and a stem of a white rose, you probably couldn't tell the difference because they were the same. That's kind of how verbs are, usually. There are stem-changing verbs and irregular verbs, but all regular verbs, the stem doesn't change. The ending will. And the ending changes based on what the subject is, or what the person or thing that is actually performing the verb is. Now, again, there are two steps when we conjugate a verb. The first step, the first thing we're going to do when we conjugate a verb is what? Drop the ending. Get rid of the ending. So step one, drop the ending. Now, verbs, all verbs in Spanish have one of three endings. What are they? AR, ER, IR. That's it. There's no other. When we conjugate all regular verbs, so these are verbs that aren't stem-changing verbs, they're not irregulars, they are just regular verbs, you will drop the ending. Second step is what? Is add or change. Add the new ending depending on what?
What is described subject?
The subject, right. Which would be, now in Spanish, they're either yo, or tu, or el, or ella, usted, nosotros, ellos, ellas, ustedes. Okay. Those are the different subjects. Now I'm going to go into actually how they're conjugated. Okay. So with doing that, I'm going to draw up our charts. Again, what were our three verb types? AR verbs, ER verbs, and IR verbs. Okay. We have our verb conjugation chart. Probably all seen it. Okay. Now we're going to go over that. With the first one here, we're going to start off with the AR verbs. to explain all the pronouns one more time just to clarify. Now, in this first box, again, they have these organized, and there's a reason why they have it organized, and I'll go over it in just a minute. But in this top left box, it's organized in a way that the pronoun that goes in here is the yo pronoun. The word yo. Now, yo means what? It means I. Okay? So when a verb, if you want to conjugate the verb into the yo form, meaning the I form, so instead of saying to talk, you're saying I talk, this is the ending you're going to be using. Now, this second box here is the to pronoun. What does to mean? You. Right. Now, so anytime you're conjugating you talk, or you eat, or you play, that's the one you're going to use. Down here, there are three of them. What are they? El, ella, and usted. What does el mean? He. What is ella? She. And what is usted? You formal. And it's abbreviated UD. That's how you'll always see it. Okay, again, in Spanish we know there's an informal you and a formal you. If you're speaking to somebody who's a friend, you're speaking to somebody you don't know real well, you'll use a different form. Then up here, we have what form? Nosotros. We have nosotros. What does that mean? We. Okay. This one here, we don't use it. What is this one called? Vosotros. Does anybody know what vosotros is? It's what? It's plural this. This is you informal. Vosotros would be you guys informal. So if I'm talking to a group of friends, I would use vosotros. But it's only used in Spain, and since there's more Spanish speaking, well, number one, we're in the Americas, and so most likely if you use Spanish, you're using American Spanish, I guess you could say. They don't use it. Okay. So we, it's one of those things. I know it, but I've never used it. It's not very common around here. All right. Then over here we have what? What are our three there? Ellos, ellas, and ustedes. What does ellos mean? They. What's ellas? They, but feminine. And ustedes is you all. You plural. So again, you'll see that vosotros would be this one plural, ustedes is that one plural. That's kind of how it works out. But everywhere else in the world but Spain, we'll just use ustedes for both formal and informal. Now, does anybody know why this chart is set up this way? Because there's actually a logical reason why. Has anybody caught it? Took me a while. Okay, on the left side, you have all of these are singular. On the right side, they're all plural. Then if you go from top to bottom, you have first person, second person, third person. That's why they set it up that way. So I am included here and here. So that's first person, singular plural. You are here and here. Okay, singular plural. And then this is third person, they or he or she. Singular plural. I explain that because sometimes when it comes down to actually writing the chart out, it might help you organize your conjugations better, make more sense. All right. Now, when it comes to actually using the endings, if we have an AR verb, like we do here, and we want to conjugate it in this yo form, so instead of saying to speak, we're saying I speak, we drop the AR, because that's our first step. What's the new ending we add? The letter O, okay? Now, with these lines here, that shows that it's at the end of a word, or it's a suffix. And I point that out because this shows it's the end of an IR verb, not the verb ir, IR. It's different, it's the end of the word. So we add O to the end of the word. So hablar becomes hablo, which means I speak, or I'm talking. If we want to say you are speaking and you are talking, we drop the AR and what do we add? AS, okay? A common mistake students make is they forget to drop this. And I see a lot, especially written, hablaro, hablaras, and that's not right. You have to drop the AR before you add the new ending. All right, if it's he, she, or you formal, we drop the AR and what do we add? A. Right. So yo hablo, tú hablas, él, ella, usted habla. If it's we drop the AR and we add? Amos. Nosotros hablamos. And finally, ellos, ellas, ustedes, we drop the AR and add? A-N, an. Ellos hablan. Okay? This is for AR verbs. Now with ER verbs, let's take the verb comer, to eat. If we want to say I eat or I'm eating, we drop the ER, and what do we add in the yo form? Oh. Yo como. If we want to say you eat or you are eating, we drop the ER and we add ES. Tu comes. Okay? If we want to say he or she is eating, or a formal you are eating, we drop the ER and we add the letter E. Come. Él come. Ella come. Usted come. With nosotros, we'll drop the ER and add hemos. Nosotros comemos. Okay? Not worry about coméis. And if it's ellos, ellas, ustedes, we drop the ER and we add en. Ellos comen. Alright? What do you notice about the AR and the ER? Well, they're very similar except for what? Exactly. They're the same except for an AR verb, use an A. For an ER verb, use an E. Okay? Moving on to the IR verbs, like vivir. If we want to say I live, we take vivir, drop the IR, and we add what? Oh, yo vivo. Okay? If we want to say you live, we drop the IR and we add ES. Vives. Okay? LA usted. If we want to say he or she lives, we drop the IR and we add E. Okay? Nosotros. If we want to say we live, we drop the IR and what do we add? Imos. I-M-O-S. And finally, if we want to say they live, we drop IR and we add E-N. Now what do you notice about the ER and the IR? They're almost identical except for the nosotros. Other than that, they're the same. Okay? These are all of your present tense, regular verb endings. So are there any questions about that? Now, one of the things that